perfect. So as Anand sir that you will be busy till 21st, so I'm good with it. So we are going to start with our routing. So for the people who have scored less than 40 and who have still not understood, probably not coming up at what all doubts you have, it's perfectly fine with me. I don't have any problem, but it's for you. It's for your career. It's not for me. I will speak, I'll go back. I'll get whatever I want. I'll get the money for my work. Nobody cares. Nobody bothers what you are going to do in future. You have to be passionate about yourself. You have to be considerate about yourself. For you, we are conducting this training, and this we conduct only for the corporates. I have never seen a college conducting this level of the training. So please make the full use out of it. Every time I request you, I tell you, there are two or three students who have scored very well in my examination, and I'm quite impressed with them. uh, Great. So I have the list with.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, VTP means we have to just configure whether it is server or client. Is it enough, ma'am?
Yeah, VTP is a VLAN trunking protocol. It's by default, you have the capability wherein you can configure the VLANs on the switch. Every switch is a VTP server. But what if you have 100 switches in your college campus? Then that means I will give you 100 switches to configure. You will say, no, madam, we cannot do this. Or probably you will not say no, but it's a tedious task to do. So we have the VTP. What we do, the building wherein I am sitting, I'll make it as a VTP server, which it is already there. But to the rest of the 90 switches or 70 switches, I will configure as client. So whenever I'm adding the VLANs, by default, it gets replicated to the client switches. Got it?
And ma'am, if we configure every switch as a server, the
Hmm.
remaining every switches we automatically configure according to the server, ma'am.
Yes. This I have given. No, I don't remember the exact thing what I have given, but I have given this, right?
Yes, ma'am. You given a configure every switch as server and every switches as
Right.
client.
Right.
Means
This.
we does not require to configure every switches again.
So I asked you to configure these ports as trunks. Why these ports are trunks? Because we are going to have our VLAN, right? And
Yes.
on the top of VLAN, trunk tags the VLAN, because whenever a frame is going to leave from my PC comes to the switch, how this switch 1 is going to tell this switch 2 and switch 3 that this is what I'm sending. I'm sending a traffic of VLAN number 10. So first of all, trunk needs to be configured. Then this is by default server. All switches are server. But you get into switch, you configure it as VTP client. So this was the first thing you should have done. I don't know what you have done. Probably you might have configured the VLANs on all the switches, and then you might be configuring VTP.
Yes,
So that
ma'am.
so this should not be followed. This is not the correct procedure to follow. Why? What is the use of VTP? VTP is actually being used for the VLAN updation. If you are already configuring the VLANs on all the switches, then there is no use of VTP. Then why you are configuring VTP? So first thing, you have to configure VTP, right, as a server, then these switches as the clients, and then add the number of the VLANs in the server. Then you have to define a domain name. Domain name is like a company name,
Yes.
right? Because otherwise what will happen, I will get in my own switch, I will try to configure it in your environment, and I will start having an updation of whatever is running in your organization. So that's a loophole. So the domain name has to be same, that represents your domain in which these all VTP is existing. So first of all, my task, we have to configure the trunk ports, we have to configure a topology, we have to configure a trunk ports. This switch was VTP server, which is their domain name, and then client with domain name, client with domain name. After doing this, we add the VLAN, whatever VLANs I have given you, you need to add those VLANs here. You will see that they get replicated here. Then I gave you 3 VLANs, right? Every VLAN has 30 hosts in it. So all of Maxim Akash has done very well. I'm quite impressed. So you have this, I think if the range was this. So /27, so you have to do the subnetting. I'm not making it much more complex. I'm limiting myself till here, but when I deliver the same sessions with the corporates, my level of explaining these concepts will be a little bit on a higher end, because there the people are going to deploy it onto the directly onto the platform. So you have a lot of time to learn. You are still third years, right? And you have a lot of time to learn all these concepts, and you are still learning on a little pace. I mean, earlier than when we get into the organization, we start learning these things, right? You are learning it as a little bit earlier, so that now when you join the organization, you are ready to grasp the advanced level concepts as well, right? So you have configured these VLANs 10, 20, 30, right, in every switch.
Yes,
Now
ma'am.
here you can find out the LAN 10.1 till 10.30. Here it was 10.33 till 10.62, and valid IP range I'm writing 10.65 till 10.94. Right? So if I take the first IP as the gateway, 10.1, 10.33, 10.65, I define the gateway here. I have to enable IP routing here, right? And then the rest, you have to configure it on the PCs, the rest of the IPs, 10, 20, 30, similar, 10, 20, 30, right? So these kind of the similar IPs you have to configure. All enough, right? Okay, fine, everyone. Right?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
ठीक है. So this is the evaluation what I have given you. Any doubts here? Because I'm going to close the switching part. For the basic level switching, this is enough. But when we'll get into the advanced level, I'll add a lot of things to it. Fine. So we are going to start with the routing. After covering every topic, what I'll be doing, I'll be starting giving you assignments. Like the test I have conducted for switching, the same way we will be following. After routing, I'll be conducting a test for routing, right? So please be aware what all we'll be covering in the part of the session. So presuming that you don't have any doubts in switching part, requesting whenever you have time, just see my notes, just practice with the labs, try to design your own labs, try to configure your own IP scheme, and you can ask me any kind of the doubts related to the network, right? Now routing. So whenever we say routing, routing means routing the traffic from the source till the destination. Source can be a PC or a place, to the destination can be a PC or the place. So routing to reach from source to destination, you can have n number of ways, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 100, because a network is wide. So this again cannot be on a same place, can be on a same place. It doesn't mean that if I'm going to talk about the routing that they don't have to be onto the same place. They can be into the same building. They can follow any path to reach from source to destination, or they can be geographically separated. So routing. But the routing is always done whenever we talk about the IP-based schema, right? So routing is of two types: static and dynamic. Guys, wait, let me take a call. 1 second.
हो गया अब तो जा चुके हैं पापा आ जाएंगे तब तक तो
So, no problem. So sorry guys, I was on a call. Static and dynamic. So what is static routing? Static routing is something like I am here on a source. I have to reach a destination, and I have this way. I have this way. I have this way. I have three ways, right? So one path was 1 gig, another path was 10 gig, another path was 40 gig. Which pathway you will prefer to reach from source to destination? Yes, anyone?
First. Second one.
Who said second one? Yes, yes, speak it up, please. Don't hesitate.
Second one. Second one.
This is Akash.
Tagore, man.
Second one. Why?
Yes, ma'am.
Because this is the highest bandwidth, right?
Yes, ma'am.
1 is bigger, 10 is bigger, or 40 is bigger?
No, man.
Which path should I follow? Second or third? See, this path was having 1 gigabyte bandwidth. You understand bandwidth? Come back, students, please. Which is bigger?
40.
40. And what is bandwidth? Bandwidth is a channel. Bandwidth is a channel, right? Through which my traffic flows. It is a channel through which my traffic flows, right? So, which is the best bandwidth? 110 or 40?
40, man.
40, man.
40. So
40.
it goes via third path. Why should it goes via 1 gig? It will have a much more bandwidth. It will have much more speed. It will have much more bigger channel to go from the source to destination. Automatically it will select. Okay. So from source to destination, if I leave it on the dynamic means dynamically select any path. I am not going to tell you whether you have to go via 1, 2, or 3. You dynamically select and you go. So it will select 40 gig. But whenever I'm telling that no, you have to go via 1 gig, I am telling it. So this router will strictly follow 1 gig. This is static routing. This is static. So this router will close his eyes and it says my network admin has told me to go via this path. So it will always prefer this path to go from source to destination. Got it? What is static? What is dynamic?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So let's talk about static routing. So static routing is always defined by your network administrator. It is always defined by your network administrator. Right? That means whatever path I am statically manually defining, he will follow the same path, right? So whenever I talk about static routing, it is I am defining. It also has an AD value. What is AD value? AD value is known as administrative distance. Administrative distance. Administrative distance is the trustworthiness of the router. Trustworthiness of router or routing device to select the best routing protocol. To select the best routing protocol. Clause least the AD value, best is the routing protocol. You can take a screenshot, guys. Least the AD value, the best is the routing protocol. AD value of static routing is 1. Least. So it is always being preferred as the best routing protocol if you have configured it. But if you have configured dynamic routing protocol, there is no static routing protocol, it will see the dynamic one. But if you have configured both static as well as dynamic, you can configure, no problem. It will always follow the static routing. So AD value is 1. So we will draw the topology. R1, R2, R3. Take a switch, 3 switches. You can say that these are 3 different locations, Delhi, Kolkata and Bangalore. You can say it is site 1 Delhi. It is site 2 Bangalore. It is site 3 Kolkata. It is site 3 Kolkata. I have one local area network here, one local area network here, and one local area network here. Right. This is local area network 1. This is local area network 2. This is local area network 3. This is wide area network 1. This is wide area network 2. F00. 0. These are the port numbers, what I'm writing. They can change as per your topology. So don't copy and paste the configuration which I might be sending. The IP schema I'm going to write is for this Delhi location. We are going to use 192. I'm going to use classful network right now. 1.0/24. This is 2.0/24. Though I should not, but I'm still using it, right? 3.0/24. 4.0/24. 5.0/24. I'll take a valid IP. I'll give it to one port of the router, which is 1.1. PC is 1.2. From this, I'll take one port to the WAN port 2.1, 2.2. From this, I'll take 3.1, 3.2, 4.1, 4.2. 5.2. Fine. Any doubts? Any doubts in this topology? Please take the screenshot. Akash, Moksha, Tejaswini, Manju, Kalyan. Kalyan, are you understanding?
Yeah, ma'am.
You have scored low, that's why I'm saying, but you have scored good in my written.
Thank
So anytime you get stuck up, you have to be very free, feel free. Renuka, you have even scored very less in my exam. Rajkumar, Venkata, you all scored less, very less. Srikanth.
Yes, ma'am.
Understanding?
Yes, ma'am. Understand.
Good. So, fine. Take a screenshot. These are 3 different sites. Take a screenshot, please. Keep it on your mobile phones or if you have logged in. Suggestively, if you have laptops, please log in via your laptops. Don't log in via mobile until or unless it is very critical to log in via mobile. Because side by side, if you can even make the lab along with me, that will be great. I know you have full 1 week, but still, what in case you can try it out. So I'm hoping that everyone has taken the screenshot, right? Now let me talk about router as a device. If you will see a router, it is a rectangular box in your organization. It has couple number of the ports. It has power supply. Console. Management. It is OBMGMT 0. F0/0, F0/1. See, right now, if you will see the modern routers, you will see that all the ports are fast Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet, right? There are no ports which are serial ports. Serial is obsoleted. When I was a network engineer, I've joined, I was like you. I've started my job, right? When I passed out my engineering 20 years back. So I've started my career as a network engineer. So then it used to be a serial ports. So the port was serial for the WAN connectivity. But now from 2005, we don't have serial ports anymore. But since we will be using a packet tracer software, which has the router, which has serial ports, that's why we'll be using it, right? So serial ports, you can have as many number of the serial ports, right? Basically, these are empty slots and you have to insert port WIC1T. WIC1T is going to have one serial port, and if you need 2 WAN ports, then you can insert WIC2T. So these are serial ports, right? The numbering is, the box number is always 0. If this is one port, only one port, so the box number is 0 if I'm going to number this port, right? So the slot is 0 and this is slot 1. There can be many other slots. So if I have to number this port, so the box number, that means my router number, my slot number, and my port number. So box number is 0, slot number is 0, port number is 0. If you will see, everything starts from 0. So the port number is 0 and 1. What is the port number of this? Anyone? What is the port number? Yes, anyone?
0 by 1 by
0 by
1 by 1.
Very good. 0 by 1 by 1. So box number, slot number, and port number. Good. Any doubts? Who told me this?
Kalyan.
Kalyan, good Kalyan, very nice. So you got the port number. See, the fast Ethernet ports are generally you will see 100 Mbps ports, right? But you can always see gigabit Ethernet ports, GI 0/0. These are 1 gig ports. These are 1 gig. So they are fixed ports, right? So that's why it is port number is 0, port number is 1. So that's the numbering. Box number and the port number, box number and the port number. But if you have empty slots wherein you can insert the card with the ports, then it is with always the slot number and then the port number. Slot number and then the port number. Here there are no empty slots, so always the port numbers. Now, this is a management port. Management port is for managing the device. So let's say if you are going to have a 10-story building, let's say you have been recruited by Accenture, right? Let's say Accenture has taken you for the network engineer post. They have given you the router to configure, and their NOC, network operations center, is on 11th floor. But the work desk they have given you that you have to sit on the ground floor because their team of NOC, their monitoring team basically sits at this floor. And they have got a new router and they have asked, okay, Kalyan, you have to configure the router which is placed at 11th floor. So what Kalyan will do? First time he will get into the NOC. He will place this device. He will log in into this device for the first time via this port. Console. So there is a special cable which is known as console cable. He will ask his team lead, sir, can I have a console cable so that I can configure this device? He will put that RJ45 port, it's like a LAN port only, the cable here and the other port to his laptop. On his laptop, he will install Putty software. Putty. Can you see this Putty software? This is very much used in industries nowadays. Can you see this SSH, Telnet, other? This serial is a console. This serial is a console. You don't need to touch these settings. You just select the serial after connecting the console cable to the router. Can you see? I have connected on your, let's assume that this Putty software is in your laptop. You will select serial, right? And you will see on which COM port your router is connected. This keeps on changing. So how you will check it? You will get into device manager. Not device manager. There is actually a tab which talks about device manager. It should have talked here itself. Let me check device manager. No. See, just let me. Not MST. Wait, guys. Just let me search for it.
How big? Speak on the
Just wait. It's in the control panel. Let me. Here it is. Can you see device manager? From here, no, as soon as you will connect your device, it can be a switch, it can be a router, it can be a firewall, it can be any XYZ device. Configuring it for the first time, you need to select the COM port. What is the COM port? Because right now I don't have any kind of a COM port or any kind of a device which is connected to my laptop. Otherwise, it will be visible to you here itself. Any doubts? In the device manager, it will be visible to you. There is a one logical port COM6 or COM7 or COM5 which by default visible, which is very much visible here, right? You will write that COM number here and you will say open. Right now I'm not able to do it. Why? Because nothing is connected. Can you do you get it? Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So the moment you will connect it, like you were configuring the packet tracer, no, it was showing you this. ऐसे आ रहा था ना? Everyone was getting this prompt. With the console port, Kalyan will go here, he will connect, he will install the putty software, he will start connecting the console cable, he will configure that putty serial, and then he will say open. It will show to Kalyan that this kind of a prompt. So what he will do? He will give an IP. He will give an IP to this management port. So that once he will be giving an IP to this management port, he will go back to the ground floor and will start pinging the router. They should be into the same subnet. Probably Kalyan system might be having 192.168.1.11 and the IP which he has given is 1.10. So he will try to ping it. Once he is able to ping it, then he can do SSH or telnet. Because every time if there is a problem, Kalyan cannot go on to the 11th floor and then he again changes the configuration or see what wrong has happened. So he can do the SSH or telnet, right? Got it, guys? So this is known as remote login. SSH or telnet. Got it? Everyone? Doubts, guys? So console is the first time login into the device. You can configure the entire router sitting at the 11th floor. But what if anything goes wrong? You cannot get every time onto the 11th floor and see, oh, what configuration do I need to change it if anything is wrong. You can get the remote login sitting at the ground floor and you will do SSH or telnet to the router which is placed at the 11th floor. Got it? Kalyan, Akash, Srikant. I cannot remember the name of the whole team, but the maximum I'll try. Bhargavi. Moksha. Tejasvi. Mahesh. Rajkumar. Tagore. Anyways. So this is the routing device. Now we'll get into the configuration. We will start assigning the IPs as per the connectivity. So there are few modes I would like to discuss. This is known as enable mode. This is known as enable mode. Right? So that means you can only do show commands here. Show this, show that, everything you can see. Then you get into enable. You have to write enable. Sorry, this is not an enable mode. This is user mode. Please correct it. User mode. Only the user can see show commands. When you write enable, just like you were doing in switch, right? This is enable mode. If it asks you the password, you have to enter, but it will ask you the password only if you have pre-configured it via console port. It will never ask you. So it will never ask you if it is a raw router. So once you know the password, if it is pre-configured, you can put in. Or what you can do, if it doesn't ask you the password, it will directly land you into this. So this is known as privilege mode. Privilege mode. This is known as privilege mode. So this is a privilege. Why you say it as a privilege mode? Because you have the privilege to configure the router. Because you have the privilege to configure the router. Right? Because you have the privilege to configure. You are a privileged user now. Here, you are not the privileged user. You are just a normal user who can do the show commands. You cannot configure it. But if you know the privilege password, you can configure it. So there are certain level of privileges like from 1 till 15, right? So the greatest level of the privilege is 15, which is assigned to the network admin. Network admin, right? Which is used by network admin. And the lower levels of the privileges, you cannot configure the router, but you can do the show commands and all. So we define certain usernames and passwords as per the privileges, and we can define the privileges. So whenever I will remotely log in into the router, I will use my user, let's say Kalyan, password, let's say abc@123. So probably Kalyan, I might have given the privilege level 2. Now again user Akash and password something 1234 @ 5678. So probably I might have given some privilege level 7, so he can do much better configuration, probably much more privilege. Then there is again a user, right? And again a password. So I might be using Srikanth and I'm probably might be giving him 15 privilege. So he can configure the entire router. So we define the roles of the users and the passwords and then define the privileges, and as per the privileges they log in into the devices and they can configure. That's why in an organization you will always find L1, L2, L3, L14. So L1 is the minimum privilege wherein you can see the show, you cannot configure. L2 has show as well as little bit of the higher configuration. L3, L4 has the full privileges to configure. So if L1 is not able to troubleshoot any kind of the errors which is coming up, right, this escalation will be handed over to L2 team. Then L2, if in case not able to troubleshoot, it will be handed over to the L3, L4 team. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. This I like it. You should say in this kind of energy. So we are going to configure it, guys. You can take the screenshot and you can follow me. Please take care of the port numbers. Probably you might be designing the topology, you will be having the different port numbers as I might be having. I'll be sending you the design sheet or the configuration sheet as per the topology what I have drawn, right? हाँ स्वाति बताओ. हाँ ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, मैं ना थोड़ा सा ऑफिस के काम में बिजी हूँ, तो आप देखकर चले जाना, ठीक है? हाँ मैं अभी काम में बिजी हूँ, मैं जैसे भी होगा ना मैं मिलती हूँ आपसे, ठीक है? हाँ बेटा, ओके. तो ठीक है, so let's implement it. Right, as per the topology, I'll show you the routing device. Let me show you the routing device. This is the power on button. You can see the console port. This is an auxiliary port. It's very little used. Nowadays, even the devices has, but I don't know. I mean, we don't use it literally, right? So FE00 and FE01, these are the LAN ports. Again, there is no fixed thumb rule that these ports has to be used to connect to the LAN switch. No, they can be connected to the WAN port now, right? But as I told you that when I was like you, there has to be a specification that okay, Ethernet has to be for the local area network and serial has to be for the wide area network. But now there is no bar. Anything you can connect to the LAN, anything you can connect to the WAN. So to add a port, I will power it off. I will add VIC1T in slot number 0. Can you see slot 0? If you will add VIC1T, this is having a single serial port in slot 1. Your serial port number will be different. It will be 0/1/0. Here it will be 0/ slot number 0 and port number 0. I'll power it on. I'll go to the CLI. I need two WAN ports, one here, another here, right? So what I'll do, see why I'm adding the serial port. You could have asked me, ma'am, you said that I can connect an Ethernet both onto the LAN and WAN side. But the problem is this has two fast Ethernet ports. All the routers has only two fast Ethernet ports. This router is fine, this router is fine. But what about this router? This needs three connections. But the number of the ports to connect is only two. Now what? So that's why I'm adding the serial port. Got it, everyone? I cannot add the fast Ethernet port because of the packet tracer limitation. Power it off. I need two ports. I'm again inserting in slot 0. So the port number is 0 and the port number is 1. So first port will be 0/0/0 and the other will be 0/0/1. Power it on. Go to the command line interface. CLI is command line interface. GUI is graphical user interface. Power it off. VIC1T. These are Linux based systems because I need only one WAN port in router number 3. That's why I take only one port. Now I'll get into the connection. I'll get into the cabling. So F00, PC, router to router, router to switch, switch to PC, router to router, router to switch, switch to PC. Any doubts guys? Any doubts here? Come back. इधर कोई डाउट है तो पूछो. क्लैरिटी है सबको? ऑल क्लियर? ऑल सेट? All clear? Good. So I'll get into the first router.
Once repeat, madam.
What to repeat, beta? Tell me. Once repeat what? This one.
Yes, ma'am.
I have taken three routers. Router 1, router 2, router 3. Router 1 physical. I have powered it off. I have dragged VIC1T card and I have made power on. I'll get into the CLI. Is the command line interface where I will configure the device. Again, I have added two WAN ports, 1 and 2. I have added one WAN port, only one. So VIC1T, VIC2T, VIC1T. But all the VIC cards I have inserted in slot number 0. These are switches as usual and these are PCs. I have taken the automatic connection and I have connected them. But if you are unable to connect and it says that I cannot connect the port to the port, or probably it might give you an error that there are no ports to be connected. So that means your serial ports has not been added, right? So keep a watch out of it. So fine. Should I go ahead now?
Yes, ma'am.
So as per your topology, continue with the configuration dialog. I'll say now. Why no? Why? Because if you will say yes, it will keep on asking you everything step by step. Give fast Ethernet IP. Give an IP to F0/1. Give an IP to management port. Give a, you want to configure DHCP? Do you want to configure some other thing? So because you have to tell him the couple number of the things which you don't want to even. So that's why we say no. I will configure whatever I like. Enable, you can press a tab to write down the whole command, just like switch. I'll get into the configure terminal. Same. Since it is a first time, so it is a console mode. I'm going to get into, I can configure the interface, but before that, let's configure hostname, site1, Dell. Right? You don't have to give any space. I have to define a password. Why secret? Secret will make that password encrypted, right? So enable secret, you give a password, anything, Cisco @123 or whatever. You can define a remote access 0 to, can you see, 15, maximum number of the users who can remotely log in into the device, right? So 0 to 4, I can specify, okay, maximum five users can log in into this device remotely. If the sixth user is going to come, it says I'm not available or the session timeout is exceeded, right? I can define a password who's going to remotely log in. So he will not use this password, Cisco. This is an admin level password. This is a remote login password. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To go one step back, Control plus Z to get into the hash mode. WR to save the configuration. It is same as copy running. Running config is whatever you are configuring. To startup config, which is a by default file in your every device of the Cisco. So I've copied my running, whatever I am typing, to the startup, which is a by default inbuilt file in the routers, switches, or firewalls, or any device of Cisco, right? Show IP interface brief. You can see that I can check the brief status of the interfaces. What brief status? That what all number of the ports I have and what is the status of the ports. So first port is no IP is assigned. It is okay, yes. Administratively down. So unlike switch where you just plug the cable and the port is up, no, it doesn't happen here. You have to make the admin open by saying no shutdown, right? Then it gets functional. So the best, now you can ask me, ma'am, what is the best practice? I mean, what is the need of using the admin down? So in that case, what is the best benefit I can get out of it is like I can pre-configure the ports of the device. And when I will configure, what I can do, it is a pre-provisioning. So whenever I want that, okay, I have right now pre-provisioned the configuration. Immediately, whenever a connection is going to come up, it is by default the port is pre-configured. I just have to say no shutdown, and that's it. So I'm good to go, right? So I don't have to say no shut and then I have to configure the whole port. See, I might not be on my desk. I might have some other important work to do, or probably I might be on some other project deployment. So in that case, what I do, if anything goes up, can pre-provision the port, and the later when it gets functional, I just have to say no shutdown, and all the configuration gets functional and live, right? So that is the use. So I'll get into the configure. Whenever you have to configure anything, just get into the configure terminal. Interface F0/0. You can check your network connectivity. You have to say no shutdown. So can you see the port is up? I can show you here. So the port goes green. If the port is red, that means your port is not up. So this takes 52 seconds because of the spanning tree protocol. Switch, because the switch has STP inbuilt, right? So I'll get into the router. I'll give an IP address 192.168.1.1. Exit. Just wait. Okay, just wait. Still, oh, fine. So guys, here बंद कर दो अच्छे से. So here it is 1.1, 1.2. 2.1, 2.2, 3.1, 3.2, 4.1, 4.2, 5.1, 5.2. Is this topology clear? We are going to implement it now. I'm going to assign the IP addresses. If this topology is clear, come back. If this topology is clear, please come back. Any doubt? Any doubts, people? Please come back.
तेरी कपड़े लिया वहाँ से
Ma'am,
Yes. Problem? Doubt?
ma'am,
So
besides
should I
using
go
of
ahead?
using of
Uh-huh.
shall we use two week 20
Should we do with what? Come again?
in order to connect the middle one we have used week 2 T no ma'am.
Right, right, right.
Can we use week 20 twice there?
You can, no problem. Yes, Kalyan, you can, no problem at all. One week 1T you can put in one slot, another week 1T you can put in another slot, no problem at all. But your port numbers will be different and you have to take care of your port numbers. This I'm doing as per my documentation, which I'm going to share with you.
Okay, thank you.
Right? Chalo, let's implement it. So first router, I'm going to give it an IP address. I went into my first fast Ethernet port. I gave an IP address of 1.1 and that's it. I get out of it, exit, and I'll get into the interface. Serial 000. I'll say no shut. The port is open, but the state is down because the other end of the router is not configured. IP address 192.168.2.1.255.255. Show IP interface brief. Now I will check the status. So my fast Ethernet port now has an IP and its status is up. My serial port which goes to the site 2 IP is there, but it is down. Why? Because my site number 2 is not configured. So I'll say WR. I'll save the configuration. I'll get into my middle router. Continue with the configuration dialog. No. Enable configuration terminal. Hostname site 2 Bangalore. You can define a secret. Enable secret Cisco. You can define a remote telnet password 0 to 5 or 6. Maximum limit is 15, right? So any number you can define. I'm defining 4, right? Define a password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come out of it, right? You can define a interface serial 000. You can say no shutdown. You can see now the change state to up. Can you see this? Why? Because now the other side is also configured, and that's why the status is changed to up. See, the change state to up. So it sends that my site number 1 is up. Now site number 2 is up. So they have finally made the change state to up. So I told you in my first lecture that IP is logical. IP is for you, for me. But routing devices or any devices, this checks the MAC address because their basic mechanism of communication is MAC and not an IP. MAC is a bit difficult to remember. That's why we have built up an IP system so that I can easily remember the IP, right? You can even give a description. That description is WAN link from, there should not be any gap, from Delhi to Bangalore. WAN from Delhi to Bangalore. So that whenever you probably might be logging into this particular router, you might have to check the configuration because you cannot remember, okay, I have configured this port. So it gives you a clear description. Okay, this was a Delhi link and this link was going towards Delhi or Vizag or some another Mumbai. So I can give it a description. Okay, this is the WAN link. Fine. IP address 192.168.2.2, 255, 255, 255. That's it. Interface serial 001. This is the another port which goes towards R3. You can give it in a description. WAN from Bangalore to Kolkata, right? You can define an IP address. It's down because my site number 3 is down. 192.168.4.1, 255, 255, 255. I will configure my LAN port. No shutdown. IP address 192.168. Plus that I'll check my entire configuration of the interfaces. So my WAN port has been assigned 3.1 and its status is up. My first WAN port is assigned 2.2. Now its status is up. And my second WAN port which goes towards site 3, its WAN is down. Why? Because site 3 is not configured. Let's say WR. Right. Configuration to my devices, and that's it. I can define secret, define Cisco, 9BTY024, password 123, and that's it, right? And then I'll get into interface. It's serial 000. I'll say no shut. Change state to up again after finally sensing. See, is up. Now I can define IP address 192.4.2.255.255.255.0. Interface at 0/0. No shut. IP 22.168.5. IP int brief. So we can check that my site 3 LAN port is 5.1, it's up, and my WAN ports is 4.2, it's up. And WR. Got it? Got it, everyone? Doubts? This is 1.1, 2.1, 2.2, 3.1, 3.2, 4.1, 4.2, 5.1, 5.2, 1.1, 1.2. All WAN pools are different with a 254 IP valid pool. Doubts? Any doubts? Or a lot of doubts? Okay, fine. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
That means understood, right? Let me give an IP to the PC. Desktop, it should be 192.168.1.2. The gateway, I told you what is gateway. Gateway is the immediate next hop. Immediate next hop. Right. So from my PC, I want to check my gateway. So for the PC, the immediate next hop is switch, but the switch doesn't understand any IP. So for my PC, this is not the gateway. So the gateway is like the bypass, the bifurcation, this bypass. So for the PC, my next hop is this IP. So what is the IP here? Anyone? What is the IP I have given to the fast Ethernet port of the router?
192.168.1.1.
So I'll ping it. So same. Kalyan is sitting here on ground floor and the router is placed on 11th floor. So he has configured like the way I have configured, went on to the 11th floor, connected a console cable to his laptop, opened the Putty software and he has started configuring it. Once you configure the IP on any port, even it is a management port or a fast Ethernet port, you should have the reachability from the ground floor till the 11th floor. Then that's what he's doing. 192.168.1.1. So he can see that, see, I'm able to ping. Now you want to configure the rest of the configuration from the telnet or SSH. So that also can be done. So telnet I have configured, telnet 192.168.1.1. Can you see I got a remote access? Now he is asking me the remote access password. So which I configured with a line VTY, if you remember, 12345. So I entered that password, which is not visible, but I have entered it. So I am into the device. Now, if I know the privilege password or admin password, I'm good to go and configure all the configuration of this device. But if I don't know, I can only do show commands, show IP, INT, right? Wait a second. Can you draw this topology on your machines right now, guys? Nobody has responded me on chat. Why? What is happening? Are you logged in via your mobile phones or laptops?
Mobile.
Yes. Anyone saying something? I can't hear. Are you logged in via your mobile phones or laptops?
Mobiles.
Why? I don't want to see you logged in via mobile phones. Please don't do that in my session at least. I hope you might be having laptops at your home. PCs or laptops, anything is fine with me. Whenever I probably get onto a call or a con call, because I'm also working side by side as a consultant as well. So whenever I'm like that, so you start deploying the topology on your laptops. Install the Cisco Packet Tracer software on your laptops. So take care of this, guys, right? So fine. So I can ping it and I can see the telnet login. So what if I'm telnet logged in, remotely logged in into the router, which is placed onto the 11th floor table. And if I know the password, the admin password, I can write down Cisco. IP. Can you see I'm remotely logged in into this device? I'm remotely logged in into this device. And if I want to come out of it, I'll say exit. And I'm back into my PC, which is placed onto the ground floor. Any doubts here? So I'm shorting the session here itself. I'll be uploading certain assignments right now. So you will do the basic router configs. So let me showcase you the documentation, which I'll share with you. Basic router config. You have to get into the router, you write enable, then you write configure terminal, you give a host name. There should not be any gaps in the host name. You can define a password which is encrypted. You can define a remote login password. Exit is a one-step go back. Control plus Z key. This is a control plus Z key to go directly into the hash mode. Wherever I have written this, that means control plus Z. Right? I will. Right? Right? And you can get into the interface, no shut, give an IP, exit to go one step back, serial port, no shut. You can define a description. You can give an IP, control plus Z to check show IP interface brief. To say show IP interface brief. Then save the configuration, WR. Now you will get into the second node, give it a host name, define an encrypted password. You can define a telnet. You can define the IPs on the interfaces like I have done. You can check the brief status of the interfaces, copy the configuration. You can get in site number 3, host name. You can define a password. You can define a remote login password. You can define the IP addresses in the ports, right? Control plus Z to come out, show IP interface brief. So till here you have to do. Please don't do this static routing config. So let me make a separate document for you. All right. Because otherwise, no, you will start configuring the. Save as. Right. So what I'll do, I will upload. Right. Resubmitted test to lab, duration 90 minutes. So what you will be doing, you will be configuring the basic level of the configuration, right? So I'll do browse, basic router, I'm uploading, right? Yes. Yeah.
Directly create an assignment for them, no? You can go to classroom and whatever you're doing, same thing you can do under assignment. Go to classroom, classwork in the top.
Acha. Ek minute,
and you
sir.
can create an assignment there. So whatever you're typing, no, it will become assignment instead of putting it here.
अच्छा ठीक है मैं दोबारा चलती हूँ wait.
You can discard it here.
Discard it here.
You can say click on create
okay.
assignment
Okay.
and you do the same thing here.
अच्छा ठीक है, then I will do this. That will be better. So basic. Oh. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. And you can take a screenshot of this topology. A screenshot of this topology can be taken. Screen. Let me save it as this is 5th day and the topology would have this is not working. Topology you have to follow, right? So file, save as, We will be implementing this topology in our coming up next class with a static routing, but till then you get familiar how to configure the router, how to configure the rest of the things. So that's very important for you, right? So I have attached the topology which you have to follow. I have attached the basic router configs. You please practice. It's very simple. It's not a big deal. I've already drawn everything in this topology and attached the configuration. So today's work is not that tough. So do I need to say assign, right?
Yeah, you click on assign and it will go to everybody.
Okay, fine. So I've assigned. So, okay. So the thing was stream, okay. So I am actually uploading the day 5.1, right? So day 5.1, what we have discussed today. And this is day 5, white. Fine, everyone. All good? Yes.
So,
If you have any doubts, please come back. We still have 10-15 minutes left. You can. Hanji. Anyone has any doubts, come back. No one has any doubts. See, I'm not starting with the static routing because for the static routing to get performed, you have to be very sound onto the configuration part. So get yourself familiar with the configuration part, what all IP addresses we have configured, and then because I'm going to follow the same topology till the end of the routing, then I'll give you the design lab, and then I'll be making it the little things little bit complexer. Not that complexer, but yes, one level above, because the training should be beneficial. That's what I believe. And then we are going to wind up for the routing, right? So we will take 4 or 5 lectures about the routing and we'll finish it up with the routing. So if anyone has any doubts, please come back. Otherwise, we are good to close the session for today.
No doubt.
No doubts. Good. ठीक है राजीव सर, क्लोज करते हैं. ठीक है. Okay. Fine.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Please do the assignment before next class.